So you want to be the master of Pokemon. But do you have the skills to be number 1? Well, now with Pokemon Recharged Yellow by Jaizu, retro achievements, and this guide, now you too can be a Pokemon Master. There are a total of 91 achievements for this wonderful ROM hack, and we are going to be breaking them up into just 2 playthroughs. First playthrough we will have level cap and challenging difficulty on. This is where we will make sure to get all of the collectible achievements as well as filling out our Pokedex. The second playthrough we will have Nuzlocke, level cap, and challenging difficulty on, which will be much more straightforward but more difficult. Now that we have all of that out of the way, let's get to the first achievement. This one is straightforward, but I got it on accident. I honestly didn't know this is where you get the Dex Nav. All you have to do is head into the school in Viridian and talk to the professor's aide looking guy and he hands it right over. This one reminded me that it never hurts to talk to everyone. Next, we are off to Viridian Forest to talk to a trainer that doesn't feel like they are good enough for their Bulbasaur. They ask you to prove yourself worthy of Bulbasaur by beating all the trainers in the forest. If you played through any of the Kanto games, you've done this many times. And there aren't any surprises with challenging difficulty. After you beat all the trainers, head back and receive your Bulbasaur and your achievement. Now that you have your Bulbasaur, it's time to put them to use and get your next 2 achievements. By beating Brock, you'll get one for beating him on normal difficulty and another for beating him on challenge difficulty with level cap on. Only difference with this Brock from other games is he has an Omanyte. Good news, his entire team is still 4 times weak to grass, so Bulbasaur will essentially get you 3 achievements this run. Surprisingly, there aren't any achievements to get inside of Mount Moon, so let's skip ahead to Cerulean City. Just like in OG Pokemon Yellow, after Nugget Bridge, you'll find a trainer that will give you Charmander. This time around, he wants you to beat all the trainers on the way to Bill's house to prove that you're worthy of Charmander. An easy enough task overall, just take your time and heal when necessary. Once you beat everyone, head back to receive your Charmander and your achievement. Now that you have your Charmander, it's time to take on Misty for 2 more achievements. Misty is the first difficulty spike you will see in this game. She brings a Psyduck, Slowpoke, and her classic Starmie to the battle. Psyduck is pretty easy. Slowpoke is a tank, but if you can at least get Leech Seed or a status effect on it, you should be fine. But Starmie is a monster. You're going to want to make sure your team is at level cap for this fight for sure. Starmie wiped out my team my first try. I might have been able to win my first attempt if I remembered Pikachu had Quick Attack, but knowing my luck, it wouldn't have mattered. My best advice to take on Starmie is to get Leech Seed on it turn 1, and poison it as soon as possible after. Be sure to keep this in mind for your Nuzlocke run later, because you are bound to lose at least 1 Pokemon here. From here, we get another achievement that reinforces the fact that you should absolutely talk to all NPCs. In the Vermilion City Pokemon Center, talk to the trainer next to the counter. She will give you a fame checker and your next achievement. And then if you're like me, you'll never think about this item again. One nice addition in this ROM hack is they added in a Pokemon contest building in Vermilion City. So if you enjoy this game mode, you'll be pretty excited. If not at all, at least take the time to stop in here. Talk to the girl to the right of the PC, she will give you an appeal sensor and another achievement. And once again, another item that I will never think about again. Before we move on to our next achievement, I want to put a future one on your radar. Once you get cut and use it for the first time, you'll notice that once a tree is cut, it's gone forever. So be sure to keep an eye out for any and all trees to cut down because you're going to need to cut down 30 of them for an achievement. I'll go a little more into this later. Now, on to Lieutenant Surge and his 2 achievements. Compared to Misty, he's a bit of a pushover to be honest. 1 ground type with Dig should be more than enough, but bringing 2 never hurts. He brings Voltorb, Magnemite, Pikachu, and Raichu to the battle, most of which will be taken out by a Dig, or 2. Raichu will be kind of annoying. He will start off using several double teams, but that won't matter to a solid ground type. I really recommend having a Nidoking or a Nidoqueen on the team for this fight. If you've taken my advice about talking to all of the NPCs, then you should absolutely know what achievement you'll be getting next. That's right, after beating Surge, you'll have earned your right to getting the Squirtle off of the officer by the Pokemon Center. And with that, you have all of the achievements that require you to get a Pokemon from an NPC. Once again, we have to talk to another NPC and get an item from them for an achievement. In the Pokemon Center right before Rock Tunnel, be sure to talk to the Professor's aide. And if you've been keeping up on catching all the Pokemon you can, he'll give you an Everstone and an achievement. Skipping over Lavender Town completely, your next achievement is just before Celadon City. There's a girl standing next to some berries. Be sure to talk to her. She will give you the watering can and the achievement to go along with it. I feel like this one should be pretty obvious, but this is a 100% guide, so you're getting everything. Now it's time to get your next 2 achievements for beating Erica. Erica brings a Tangela, Victory Bell, Gloom, and Vileplume to the battle. The fight is pretty easy, especially if you hit up the vending machine on the top of the shopping center and grab the TM for Flamethrower, and have a solid flying type or a second fire type. Now that Erica is defeated, we can go back to the tree chopping achievement I talked about earlier. Cutting down 30 trees might seem like a lot, but surprisingly, it really isn't. If you cut every single tree that you see from Viridian all the way to Fuchsia, you'll get this achievement. One thing to keep in mind is if you want to get this a little easier without having to worry about finding every single tree, for some reason the trees in Erica's gym always respawn, so if you want to mindlessly farm them for the achievement, you can do that too. From here, we kinda speedrun through some achievements. At this point in the game, you can pretty much choose to either fight Sabrina or Koga first. For this playthrough, it really doesn't matter, but I went with Sabrina first because I just happened to hit level cap after clearing Silco and we were already in the area. Sabrina is another difficulty spike for sure. Not bad for this playthrough, but you'll want to pay attention to get info for the Nuzlocke. Sabrina brings Mr. Mime, Slowbro, Jinx, Espeon, and Alakazam to the battle. If you caught a Ghastly, be sure to train it up. It'll be a huge help here and at Koga. Koga isn't too difficult, especially compared to Sabrina. Koga brings Weezing, Muck, Golbat, Nidorino, and Venomoth to the battle. Bring a Gengar with Psychic and a ground type with Dig, and you're pretty well set. Blaine is also a walk in the park. Blaine brings Magmar, Rapidash, Ninetales, Flareon, and Arcanine to the battle. A solid water type with Surf should generally clear, but having a ground type for backup is a good idea too. Time for the last gym leader. No walk in the park, but certainly not the toughest of the bunch. Giovanni brings Persian, Dugtrio, Nidoqueen, Kangaskhan, Nidoking, and Rhydon to the battle. Persian with Swagger can be a pain, but hopefully your RNG is better than mine. Now that the gym leaders are out of the way, it's time to head to the Elite Four. You'll have to grind a little bit to get to level cap, but trust me, you're gonna want to be at level cap for this. Also, if you're like me and wanted to run Pikachu the whole time, 20 bucks says you'll do the same thing I did, and you'll want to evolve it into a Raichu after seeing Dugong absolutely tank a Thunderbolt. To be honest, it's kind of surprising that Lorelei is the first member of the Elite Four. Lorelei brings Dugong, Cloyster, Slowbro, Jinx, and Lapras to the battle. She has a fairly solid team, 3 of which are rather tanky, and honestly gave me the most trouble compared to the others. She deserves to be the 3rd one you face, at the very least. Bruno is a walk in the park. Bruno brings Onix, Poliwrath, Hitmonchan, Machamp, and Hitmonlee to the battle. Honestly, kinda surprised I didn't one-shot all of his Pokemon, but some must have better special defense than I thought. Agatha is essentially Koga 2.0, so same strategy applies here. Agatha brings Gengar, Golbat, Weezing, Arbok, and another Gengar to the battle. She does have a more well-rounded set of moves compared to Koga, so don't expect a sweep, but she doesn't really have anything you need to worry about. Lance can be tough. He is the final member of the Elite Four for a reason. But as long as you have at least one ice move, you should be fine. Lance brings Gyarados, Dragonite, Seadra, Aerodactyl, and Charizard to the battle. Honestly, was kinda surprised that he didn't have his classic double Dragonite. Now it's time to take on the rival and become champion. If you've been paying attention, you should already know what your rival is going to be using, but just in case, let's go over it. He brings Pidgeot, Vileplume, Slowbro, Marowak, Rapidash, and Jolteon to the battle. Nothing really surprising here, just watch out for the Vileplume, it can really pack a punch. Now that you're a champion, there's only a couple more things to do for this playthrough. First, let's go over what I think is the most missable achievement in this game, getting the power items. I honestly had to go to the comments for this achievement to find out where to get them because I had zero idea, and would have never in a million years guessed that this is where you get them. Only after becoming champ, if you talk to the NPC right before facing the Elite Four, she will give you the power items. Very simple, but I would have never naturally talked to her again if I'm being honest. Now onto the achievement that is going to take you the longest time, filling out the Pokedex. All of the OG Kanto Pokemon are available to get, as well as all of the Gen 2 counterparts to the Kanto Pokemon. I'll go over real quick some of the Pokemon that might give you a little bit of trouble. First, let's go over all the Gen 2 Pokemon you can get, because I know I overlooked a couple when doing this the first time. Breed a Hitmonlee or a Hitmonchan to get a Tyrogue, and then evolve it into a Hitmontop. Honestly, I thought they were Gen 3 Pokemon, so I kind of forgot that they were even an option. Crobat, Blissey, Umbreon, and Espeon are all friendship-based evolutions. To me, it feels like it takes forever to get the friendship up in this game. Honestly, just head over to Cycle Road right up and down it until the friendship is maxed. Teach them Return if you want an easy way to track where their friendship is. When it hits 102 power, then they're good to go. You'll need to pick up 2 Metal Coats, 2 King's Rocks, an upgrade, and a Sunstone from the Celadon shopping center for these next ones. I will assume that this isn't your first time playing a Pokemon game, so I won't go over who needs what, but if you don't know, just leave a comment and I'll give you an answer. Next up, it's breeding time. Breed a Pikachu, Clefairy, Jigglypuff, Magmar, Electabuzz, and Jinx to get your baby Pokemon from Gen 2. Somehow I completely forgot about Magby, Elekid, and Smoochum when doing this process, so don't feel bad if you somehow forgot some of these Pokemon. And the final of the Gen 2 Pokemon, which is the most difficult to get, is Kingdra. It's not difficult per se, but it is RNG based. You need a Dragon Scale for Seadra to hold while you use the link cable on it to get it to evolve. Sad thing is, the only way to get it is to find a Horsey that has one. Your best bet is to fish near the Poke Center by Rock Tunnel, and teach a Pokemon Thief and just hope that RNGesus is on your side. Now that you have all of your Gen 2 Pokemon, let's talk about a couple Kanto Pokemon that might be a little tough. The evolutions aren't bad, but do yourself a favor, don't breed for them. Just head to Cycle Road and catch the extras that you need. When it comes to the fossil Pokemon, you know exactly where to get the first one, but how do you get the second fossil that you didn't pick in Mount Moon? Well, after you become champ, go back and talk to the nerd and he'll just give you the other one because Cinnabar is too far for him to get to. Quick honorable mention, though I feel like you should naturally run into this Pokemon. In the dojo in Saffron, you'll have to choose between Hitmonlee or Hitmonchan. Whichever you don't choose, the other shows up in Victory Road, so no need to rely on breeding if you don't want to. Finally, the last Pokemon you'll need to complete your dex and get 2 achievements. If you know the tales of old, you'll really appreciate this. After you become champion, head to Vermilion City and go to the docks for the SSAN. Surf to the right and you'll find a truck. You have to manually use strength on it and it has to be from the side so you can push it into the sea. Mew appears and you have your chance to catch it, finish your dex, and knock out 2 achievements in one go. Surprisingly, it's only level 30, so feel free to use your Master Ball on Mewtwo. You won't need it here. It's now time for the last 7 achievements for this playthrough. All of them are just rematches with the gym leaders, and because Giovanni left town, you get no rematch with him. That's why there's only the 7. To keep it short and sweet, I'll just go over what each of them bring and if there's anything to look out for. Big note here is after you become champ, level cap no longer exists, so you might have a Pokemon or 2 that are over leveled after filling out the Pokedex, making this super easy. Brock brings Tyranitar, Kabutops, Aerodactyl, Relicanth, Steelix, and Omastar to the battle. Misty brings Golduck, Vaporeon, Dugong, Slowking, Starmie, and Milotic to the battle. Lieutenant Surge brings Magneton, Electabuzz, Lantern, Raichu, Electrode, and Ampharos to the battle. Erica brings Venusaur, Victreebel, Vileplume, Blossom, Executor, and Breloom to the battle. Koga brings Muck, Crobat, Venomoth, Tentacruel, Swalot, and Weezing to the battle. Sabrina brings Hypno, Mr. Mime, Alakazam, Slowking, Espeon, and Jinx to the battle. And finally, Blaine brings Arcanine, Magmar, Rapidash, Ninetales, Charizard, and Flareon to the battle. With that, you have now fully completed your first playthrough. Now it's time to start the Nuzlocke run. Now I will suggest turning on the Obtain More XP for this run just to save you some time on grinding out levels. Turning this on doesn't affect the achievement, so don't worry. I will also be going a bit faster through these achievements because we are doing the same thing as the last time, just at higher stakes. At most, I'll add in what I would have done different or certain battles to look out for. Brock is the same as before. Just get to level cap, use your guaranteed Bulbasaur, and sweep. Just a quick, easy 3 achievements. Watch out for the rival fight in Cerulean City. His shiny Oddish is pretty nasty to go up against with its Sludge Bomb. Honestly, I was surprised I didn't lose anyone in this fight. To no surprise, Misty can be a run killer for sure. My biggest things that I would say to make this easier are 1. Leech Seed or some sort of status effect on turn 1 for Starmie. And if you don't have either of those, good luck. 2. Make sure to bring heals. I honestly didn't think about it, I really should have. Lieutenant Surge is pretty much a walk in the park so long as you can make it to him with a ground type. You probably won't get as lucky as me and get a Dugtrio in Diglett Cave, but honestly, a Diglett should be more than enough if you didn't get another ground type earlier. Erica is pretty simple as well. My Golbat really helped me out a lot here. Just don't be dumb like me and forget that you could get flamethrower from the top of the shopping center. Real quick, one thing I will suggest at this point is to head straight to the Safari Zone as quickly as you can and use it to fill out your Pokedex. You'll want to do this so you can get the XP share from the Professor's Aid in the area. It'll make training up new Pokemon on the team so much easier. You need to register at least 50 Pokemon, and I think when I hit this point in the game, I was at the upper 20s to mid 30s. One thing I did to make it easier to remember which catches were legit or not was anything that wasn't legit, I nicknamed it DED Dead, so I could tell at a glance which ones would come out with just 0 HP at all times. Now comes the dreaded decision, do you face Sabrina or Koga first? Once again, having Gengar is huge at this point. I went for Sabrina first again. I regret this decision, but I think I know how I could have made it better. Gengar tends to have a lackluster attack stat, so Shadow Ball suffers a bit. If you can, I would pump your Gengar full of protein as soon as possible, and that should help make Shadow Ball a little bit more lethal. But overall, I would suggest fighting Koga first, just so you could have Gengar to hard carry through that fight. Koga is no walk in the park for Nuzlocke, but I would say he's absolutely easier than Sabrina. Blaine, once again, fairly easy, especially with all the different water types you can get along the way. If you don't happen to have a water type you're really enjoying for this run, I highly recommend taking the time to get a Kingdra for this run. Giovanni was much easier for me this time around because I didn't get stuck in a confusion loop. Make sure you have somebody that has a fighting move for Kangaskong and you should generally be fine. Real quick, before we get to the Elite Four, I want to talk about my team I have going in and what I might suggest. Kingdra is an absolute beast, only weak to Dragon, super solid choice overall. The only thing I would have done differently is save the Ice Beam TM for Kingdra instead of instantly teaching it to my Blastoise. Vileplume is decent. I would have much preferred to have Victory Bell or Venusaur, but Vileplume does work. Charizard is solid, super glad he made it the whole way, especially because he's shiny. We swapped out Crobat for Jolteon just to really help out with Lorelei. Fingers crossed we can hit all of our Thunders. Nidoking plus Earthquake is just a goated combo. And finally, what I think is probably the best Pokemon you could use for this Nuzlocke? Snorlax. This Snorlax is an absolute stalwart. Between leftovers and rest, it never dies. Adding in Toxic to whittle down the enemy was a great choice on my part. And then Sleep Talk to take advantage of rest is nice. Seriously, make sure you catch at least one of the Snorlax. You won't regret it. Now on to the Elite Four. Lorelei up first, and just like in the first playthrough, we have some walls to get through. I would say whoever you have going in first, force feed them some calcium to get their special attack up a bit more and try and get some more one-shots. If I did that with Jolteon, I probably could have swept with just Thunder. You know, if they actually hit. Bruno isn't horrible, but keep an eye out for him. His Poliwrath with Ice Beam covers their grass weaknesses, and Machamp with Rock Slide covers their flying weakness. Play a little smarter than me and you'll get out without losing anyone. Agatha can be rather dangerous. If you can't kill the first Gengar right away, or at least do back-to-back 50% damage, expect an explosion coming your way. Other than that, watch out for the second Gengar's Destiny Bond. Bring some extra Pokeballs to waste turns throwing them to avoid the Destiny Bond. Lance isn't too bad. His team is pretty straightforward with nothing that should really surprise you. Just make sure you're healed up and you have your PP topped off. Also, if you have the chance to one-shot Dragonite with an ice move, I would highly recommend it, because he will probably Dragon Dance turn 1 and make your life hard. Rival time, once again. Honestly, this is probably the most stressful fight. Mostly because it's the last major one you need to do, or else you have to start all over again with the new team. The shiny Vileplume is absolutely the most dangerous on their team. If you have a stab super effective option, be sure to use it. Now, for the last 7 achievements overall, and I'll keep it short and sweet. You know exactly what you're up against from the last playthrough. Level cap is gone, so if you want to train up to make it easier, you can, and the Nuzlocke is turned off. Wait, the Nuzlocke is turned off? Yeah, I was surprised too. After you become champion, the Nuzlocke is turned off and all of your lost Pokemon and invalid Pokemon are usable. And if any of your Pokemon faint, they can be healed. And it still counts towards the rematch achievements with Nuzlocke on. Not sure if this is a bug in the program for the Nuzlocke mode, or if when these achievements were made, they didn't know about the Nuzlocke turning off. Either way, this should be an easy way to end a tough challenge. And with that, you can call yourself a Pokemon Master. If you found this guide helpful, be sure to drop a like and a sub for more retro achievement guides. If you have a game you'd like to see a guide for, let me know in the comments. If you want to see the full playthrough of Recharged Yellow, check out my live playlist. And as I said before, if you have any questions, be sure to ask them in the comments. Keep an eye out for my Super Mario Mon Retro Achievements guide. It'll be coming out in the near future. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.